Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a major development that could reshape the entire southern front of the war, as reports point to a growing exodus from Crimea and mounting pressure on Russia's so-called land bridge. What once looked like a secure logistical lifeline is now facing serious strain, and the consequences are spreading fast. Crimea has long been presented by Moscow as firmly under control, a symbol of permanence and strength. But recent movements on the ground suggest a very different reality. Civilian traffic, administrative relocations, and military adjustments are all signaling that confidence is cracking. Over the past weeks, there has been a noticeable increase in people leaving the peninsula. Some are families, others are workers, and many are officials quietly moving assets and records. While authorities avoid the word evacuation, the patterns tell a story of preparation for instability. This movement is not happening in isolation. It directly connects to the growing vulnerability of Russia's land bridge, the narrow strip of occupied territory linking mainland Russia to Crimea through southern Ukraine. This corridor is essential for supplies, fuel, and reinforcements. When the land bridge functions smoothly, Crimea remains connected and sustainable. When it falters, everything changes. Recent strikes, sabotage, and pressure along key routes have made transport slower, riskier, and far less predictable. Rail lines have been disrupted, road convoys face constant threat, warehouses near the corridor are no longer considered safe. Each of these factors adds friction, and in warfare, friction compounds quickly. Crimea's economy depends heavily on uninterrupted supply flows. Food, fuel, construction materials, and even basic consumer goods rely on steady transport. As delays increase, shortages begin to appear and prices quietly rise. Tourism, once promoted as proof of normalcy, has dropped sharply. Beaches and resorts that were advertised as bustling now appear subdued. Many potential visitors are choosing not to take the risk, and locals feel the impact immediately. Military logistics are under even greater pressure. Crimea hosts air bases, naval facilities, and command centers that require constant resupply. Any disruption forces difficult choices about prioritization. Fuel shortages don't just slow vehicles, they ground aircraft, limit patrols, and reduce readiness. Ammunition delays affect training and operational planning. These are not abstract problems, they affect day-to-day capability. The land bridge itself has become a focal point of strategic pressure. By targeting bridges, rail hubs, and depots along this route, Ukraine aims to make Crimea increasingly isolated without needing a direct assault. This strategy is about shaping the battlefield over time. Isolation weakens morale, strains resources, and forces the opponent to spread defenses thin across a wide area. As pressure increases, Russia has responded by reinforcing certain segments of the corridor. Trenches, concrete barriers, and additional checkpoints have appeared. But static defenses cannot fully solve a logistical problem. Every added checkpoint slows movement. Every rerouted convoy increases fuel use and exposure. Defensive measures can protect territory, but they also highlight vulnerability. Within Crimea, uncertainty is growing. Local businesses hesitate to invest. Construction projects slow or stop. People with the means to leave often choose to do so early rather than wait. Schools and hospitals reportedly face staffing challenges as professionals relocate. Even small shifts like this ripple outward, affecting daily life for those who remain. Official messaging continues to emphasize stability. State media shows calm streets and reassurances from officials, but behind the scenes, contingency planning tells another story. Documents, archives, and administrative systems are reportedly being duplicated or moved. This is a classic sign of risk management when long-term control can no longer be taken for granted. The psychological impact is significant. For years, Crimea was framed as untouchable. Now, the idea that it could be cut off challenges that narrative deeply. Morale matters, not just for civilians but for soldiers stationed there. Knowing that supply lines are under threat changes how people perceive their safety and future. The naval situation adds another layer. Russia's Black Sea Fleet has already adjusted its posture, relocating some assets and reducing exposure. Ports that once hosted major vessels now operate more cautiously. Reduced naval presence affects air defense coordination and regional control. Crimea's strategic value is closely tied to its role as a military hub, and any reduction weakens that role. Air defense systems remain active, but constant alerts and interceptions create fatigue. Maintaining high readiness levels over long periods is costly and exhausting. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to emphasize precision and pressure rather than speed. The goal appears to be making Crimea harder and more expensive to hold with each passing month. This approach avoids large-scale civilian harm while steadily degrading military utility. It also keeps international attention focused on legality and proportionality. The land bridge collapse, even partial, doesn't mean immediate abandonment, but it does mean higher costs, higher risks, and fewer options. Russia still has alternatives, such as maritime supply routes. However, these are slower, more visible, and more vulnerable to disruption. Weather, port capacity, and naval threats all limit how much can realistically be shipped by sea. Over time, this creates a bottleneck that no amount of messaging can erase. As these pressures mount, the exodus from Crimea becomes easier to understand. People respond to signals, not slogans. When conditions suggest uncertainty, they act. Some departures are temporary, others are permanent. Each person who leaves takes skills, labor, and local knowledge with them. This gradual hollowing out weakens the region from within. Even without dramatic headlines, the long-term effects are profound. International observers are watching closely. Crimea's status has always been central to diplomatic discussions, and changes on the ground could influence future negotiations. If the land bridge remains unstable, it reshapes the strategic map. Crimea shifts from a forward base to a liability that demands constant protection. This also affects Russia's broader posture in southern Ukraine. Resources used to defend supply lines are resources not used elsewhere. Every unit guarding a rail junction is a unit not available for offensive operations. Over time, this limits flexibility. For Ukraine, this represents a strategic opportunity, not a quick victory but a steady rebalancing of power. For civilians caught in the middle, it is a period of waiting and watching. Decisions about staying or leaving are deeply personal and often painful. What's clear is that the situation is evolving. The idea of Crimea as permanently secure is no longer unquestioned. As pressure on the land bridge continues, we are likely to see more signs of adjustment, relocation, and quiet preparation. The story here is not just about territory. It's about logistics, morale, and the slow impact of sustained pressure. Wars are not only decided by battles, but by supply lines and endurance. Right now, those invisible factors are shaping events in powerful ways. The coming months will reveal whether Russia can stabilize this corridor or whether isolation will deepen further. Either way, the movements we are seeing today are early indicators of much larger shifts. That's why this moment matters, and why the exodus from Crimea is more than just a headline. It's a signal that the balance is changing, one road, one rail line, and one decision at a time.